Well, it was 27 years ago we first came to Australia, and just they couldn't even spell Buddhism, let alone know what Buddhism was. So imagine like going around the streets dressed like this. But you got some really good stares, but it's a great advertisement. They couldn't sort of ignore you dressed like this. But it was tough at first because we didn't have any money, didn't have a place to stay, so it was very tough. But little by little, when people got to trust you, that was the most important thing, because they checked you out for the first couple of years, knew you were sort of real monks, you were practicing well, you were simple, and you were teaching good things, being kind, and those were sorts of things which inspired people to say, yeah, we want these monks to survive, so they supported us. So we managed to build up a strong community over the years.
Today is a special celebration from Ajahn Brahm's 60th birthday. Thank you to Ajahn. Beautiful heart and beautiful mind.
It's very nice to have my big brother visit me from England for the first time. It's about time you come here, big brother. After many times I visited you, and this is the first time you come to visit me. But nevertheless, I've put on a big party. It's not my birthday party, it's welcoming my big brother from UK. So welcome to this humble place. As you see, I live a very simple life. With lots of solitude and peace. But nevertheless, it's very nice to see you here on my 60th birthday. And I forgive you publicly for all those times you beat me up when I was a kid. So, what are your reflections coming to a Buddhist monastery for the first time?
My reflections are how busy it is, and how many people are here, and how well regarded you are.
Because Buddhism is growing in the Western world, and so am I.
See that?
Very good.
Humour, that was part of my upbringing. My father came from Liverpool. If you haven't got a sense of humour in Liverpool, you don't survive. But it's also just part of who you are. It's just being normal, being human, even though you're a monk, and sometimes people think that that's this huge spiritual advanced being who you can't get close to. Humour is something which draws people together. When you laugh, everybody laughs, and that means that everybody is part of you. When I was in Hong Kong recently, after I left, one of the nuns at the temple said, "Thank you for coming. Before you came, I was not allowed to laugh." Every time I smiled, people said, "No, Buddhists aren't supposed to do that. When you came here and smiled and everyone was happy, now I can smile as well. Thank you so much." So it's a beautiful, compassionate thing to do, to make people happy. And much of humour is about a truth, about the human condition of what we are and just how stupid we are sometimes. That's why people laugh, because when we laugh, we're laughing at ourselves.
Bring over some dim sums. Please.
This is a message for everybody in Hong Kong. Bring over some good dim sums.
Being a good teacher is, again, being able to not talk down to people, but talk not above people, but talk at the same level. You can be honest, you can be upfront, you can teach from the heart, and you can bridge that gap. And the relating Buddhism to people's daily lives, and humour as well. And one of the most important things is, I found in teaching, never planning what you're going to say, but just keeping a kind, peaceful mind, and then relating to people. For example, I gave a talk a couple of nights ago about Buddhism and bananas. But when you have a banana, you usually peel it from the top. And that's a lot of suffering. Sometimes it squashes, sometimes it's hard to open. And the reason is we don't really follow the experts. Who are the experts with bananas? Monkeys. And if you watch how a monkey peels a banana, it peels it from the bottom. So when you learn how to peel it from the bottom, like the experts do, you have less suffering. And that's like a simile about people come to the experts, the monks, they learn how to meditate, they learn how to let go of suffering and pain in life. Because too much in life, it's like we peel the banana at the wrong end. And that's why you have pain and suffering. So you come and learn from the monks, you learn how to peel life at the right end, and then it doesn't get all squashy and squishy. Yeah, there's already one goal in the last few years which I've been working on, is to have equity between the genders, so that to have full ordination for nuns, and we've managed to start that off a couple of years ago. It still hasn't got full acceptance yet, but certainly if Buddhism is going to survive in our modern world, in the West and in the East, we have to make sure that there is equity, which is just basic respect. That's as it was in the time of the Buddha. Female monastics getting as much support, reaching the very heights of spiritual attainments, so there'll be hardly any difference between the nuns and the monks. Equal respect. One of the most important things is sincerity, because so many people have lost their faith in institutions, in government, in police, even teachers, and in churches as well. But for the last 27 years we've been here, we've had an impeccable record, and that's one of the wonderful things we've been able to achieve, simply because we've been so open. And people have, again, they've tested us out, they've seen that what we say is what we do. And in this monastery, twice a year, you can go in any monk's hut and have a look how we live. Go under the mattress, if they have a mattress. A lot of us sleep on the floor, see if we've got any Playboy magazines or anything like that. There's nothing there at all. It's just, actually, as we are, you can see it's as we live, as we should be, like monks. This place we're standing at now, this is our monastery, and we'll have about 20 monks here soon, and this is a place, this is our home. In order to make sure that we look after the lay community, we've got a big centre over in Nolamara, but we need places where people can meditate and be quiet, so we have the meditation retreat centre as well. And that's incredibly popular because we've made it comfortable for people. So meditation is not like going to the dentist, which you have to be afraid of, but you've got to do anyway, so you grit your teeth and think, I better go on meditation retreat. No, it's something you like doing, because it's comfortable. So, hope everyone has a wonderful day, and make peace, be kind, be gentle, and please smile a lot.
I have myself. There's no one in here. So that's why it's very hard to talk about myself. So I'm a monk. Wherever I go, I wear, as they say, different hats. So when I'm on stage, I'm entertainer and Dharma teacher. When I'm in my room, in my monastery, I'm just a simple monk living in a cave. When I'm helping the other monks, I'm a builder, a worker. When I'm in our city centre, I may be an administrator. So a good monk can have no role, and thereby he can fill any role. My childhood was a long time ago. But I remember my mother and father were quite poor. Actually, they were very poor, especially by the standards around them in Britain. But of course, we never realised we were so poor. We just grew up as ordinary people, thinking everybody else was like that. And it was only later on when I started doing really well at school, with scholarships all the way, from a very ordinary school in a very poor suburb of London to a very good school, a high school, old scholarships. And it was then I realised that just how poor my family were. Because I was certainly the poorest kid in the whole class. Everybody else were middle class kids. Their parents were business people or doctors or lawyers. But of course my father was mostly out of work because of his ill health. But even though materially we were quite poor, we were a very warm, loving, supportive family. So materially we were poor, but emotionally we had a very rich life. And I remember just the examples of my mother and father were very supportive and not domineering or controlling. My father was an atheist. When I asked him about that, he said that he could not believe in God because of what he saw with his own eyes during the Second World War. He grew up in Liverpool and saw many of his friends killed, and those who weren't killed come back from that war with wounds and damaged limbs. He saw so much suffering, the like of which we don't really see these days. We could not believe in a caring God anymore. But nevertheless, he was a very caring man, a very good man, and he was an inspiration to myself and my brother. My mother was a very simple woman as well, but again, very good, very moral, and gave us a very good education. And one memory of my father, which I don't think I've shared for many years, when I started to do very well at school, when I was about 14 or 15, just before my O-level exams in England, my teacher saw that I had great potential, and he told my father at one parents' evening that I would probably go to Cambridge. And my father got very angry at the teacher, and apparently they almost had a fight with fists with my teacher. And my teacher told me about that the next day, and the only reason was he thought that his son going to such a very high college like Cambridge would separate his son from him. I'd be entering another world, and that would create distance between a father and his son. That was his fear. Of course, such a thing would never happen, and unfortunately he died before I got to Cambridge. He would have been very proud. Recently, you may know that I went to my mother's funeral in London, and together with my brother we were reminiscing about our early life with our parents. And as one memory comes up, many others pour into the mind as well. But that memory about that little teaching from my father, I know that so clearly because it was one of those memories which have always stayed with me, because it was so important. And it happened when my father, he was working in a garage, just serving petrol. It was a very poor job, but that's all he could do. And it was not that far from my high school, so I would walk from the high school to where my father's garage was, wait till about 4:30, 5 o'clock when he finished work, and he would drive me home. Often he'd give me an ice cream on the way back, but on that particular occasion, he parked his cart deliberately off Churchfield Road in Acton, and he turned off the car engine and turned to me. I was in the passenger seat, he was the driver, there's only two of us in that car. I must have been about 14 or maybe 13 at the time. He turned around to me and said without any provocation or any introduction, "Son, wherever you go, whatever you do, however you turn out in your life, I want you to always remember one thing. This is important. Please remember, the door of my house will always be open to you. Okay, no matter what happens to you or how you turn out. Now I'm your father. Wherever I live, you're always welcome." And as I explained in my book, I knew that was important so much that I can remember it to this day. But I never understood it fully. And it was only years later when I became a monk and had the time and the encouragement to contemplate these things. Unfortunately, our modern life is so busy we don't have time to stand back and reflect on what's happened in our lives. For reflecting on that important experience, I realized that what my father really meant was not the door of his house, but the door of his heart. As I mentioned to you earlier, that my father was very poor, so he lived in government-assisted housing, an apartment for poor people of the migrants. So in his house, he's opening the door to, I realized it's opening the door of his heart. He was giving me unconditional love. And although I did not understand it at the time, at least I knew this was really important. When I did understand it, it gave me great direction for my life. To be able to say to others, even the people who cheat you or hurt you, no matter what you do, how you turn out, the door of my own heart will always be open to you. And lastly, I figured out you have to say that to yourself as well. Whoever you are, with all your faults, whoever you are, to say to yourself, the door of my own heart is open to me. Come in. Be at peace with yourself. The main thing is whatever's happened, doesn't matter good or bad. It's like my father would love me no matter what I did. He told me that you can love yourself, no matter all the silly, stupid, even cruel things you may have done in your life. Even as a student at university, I would wear flip-flop sandals, not shoes, even though it was snow. People thought I was crazy, but in those days you were allowed to be a little eccentric as a student. I was never that interested in money or possessions. And so a lot of my friends told me many years later they could see the makings of a monk even when I was a student. And looking back upon it, there's many of the ways which I would relate to life which were very monkish. I wasn't a monk, I had girlfriends. But I remember the most serious relationship which I had, which came very close to marriage. When that didn't work out, I thought to myself, oh well, that's just life, this too will pass. And there was never any tears or any sadness, which quite surprised me. Because everybody else, when they broke up with their girlfriends that they'd been going out for such a long time, always got devastated. And I just carried on as if nothing had happened. There's much in my life which I show I could let go of things so easily. And when I came to become a monk, I went to the Thai temple in London, first of all, because that was the closest Buddhist temple to where I lived. And I asked the monks in that temple that I wanted to ordain as a bhikkhu, and they suggested to go to Thailand. I was looking for a monastery to go to, and there was one man who had just come back from the forest monasteries. And I asked him, and he never gave me any information about Ajahn Chah. When I told him, when I saw him many years later at Ajahn Chah's monastery, I said, why didn't you ever tell me about Ajahn Chah? And his remark was, I thought you were too happy. You were serious about being a monk. Because most of the people who became monks in those days did so because they were suffering so much in life. But for me, it was because I saw the beauty of the Dhamma. I wasn't escaping from suffering as much as inclining towards deeper and greater happiness. So when eventually I saw Ajahn Chah in the forest tradition, it reminded me of what I'd read about in the sutras in the Vinaya. This was like you read in the time of the Buddha, monks living simply in the forest. They're just going on alms round every morning, having hardly any possessions, and spending most of their time meditating in solitude. And that's what inspired me. It was like the forest tradition in those days. It's not the same now, unfortunately. The forest tradition now has become rich. In those days, it was so poor. It was very much like you'd expect from the time of the Buddha. I remember I'd just come from a great university, and Ajahn Chah had only had 4 years of schooling. But it soon became very apparent to me that he was far more smart and wise than I was. And that was a great shock, because like many other people, he had great faith in a Western system of education, where if you read enough books, if you study and train the analytic mind, then you'll be able to solve the problems in life. But then I realized that people hadn't solved the problems. One of the experiences of going to a great university like Cambridge, which had access to some of the most decorated minds in the whole world. You could have dinner with Nobel laureates and sit next to them and talk to them about things. That was the great beauty of the college systems in Cambridge and Oxford. Students had access to the greatest professors, and professors had access to the students. The professors got weird and strange ideas from the students and turned them into great breakthroughs in their field. And the students gained inspiration by being close to some famous names in science and other fields of study. But when I saw these people who were experts in their field, I saw how stupid they were in life. They had Nobel Prizes in chemistry. They were always arguing with their wife and having trouble with their children. So I realized that there was a great difference between the wisdom and knowledge which you get at university and the wisdom and knowledge which you get in the forests, in a Buddhist monastery learning meditation. And I saw that wisdom in Ajahn Chah. He was inspiring. He was a Nobel laureate. He had the Nobel Peace Prize. He was very peaceful. So that inspired me. It wasn't so much what he said, but the way he lived. Because I, as an educated man, I know it's very easy to say wise things and inspire other people with witty sayings. But it's how you live really inspires people. And having stayed with that master for so many years and observed him over such a long time, we never saw any flaws of selfishness or greed or anger in him at all. And that was so inspiring. You see, as he talked, so he lived. That was inspiring. It was authentic, it was real. A real monk. No, because I've seen those snakes and beasts and ghosts for such a long time. It's strange that it's not any result of deep meditation or great wisdom, but I've always had a great empathy for snakes. Never scared of them, but having a natural compassion. But it's quite strange, and I don't know why. But whenever I see a snake, I walk towards them, which is why they will never ever bite me. I've had snakes. I'm treading on snakes in Thailand. I've had, the story of me urinating on a snake. Hasn't been a funny story here yet. So this was one funny story of living in Thailand. We would meditate all night, or once a week. So we'd go without sleep for 24-30 hours. And after meditating all night, normally we were very dozy in the early morning. So once the session was finished, just at dawn, my mindfulness was not very strong, and I went out into the forest to urinate. Because it's a forest, just like in the villages of Indonesia, you just go into a piece of forest and just squat down and urinate. And that's what I did, squatting down, ancient tradition, and I thought I was urinating on a stick. Remember, it was the first light of day, I was a bit tired, and the stick started to move. There was a snake. I was urinating on the snake. Now remember, I'm talking to Andika Vijayananda, who's a male, and you know, all you males, the most sensitive part of your whole body is just a couple of inches from the snake's mouth. And that's very scary. Ah, that snake, it didn't bite me at all, didn't even raise its head, it just enjoyed every minute. Because I'm sure that snake thought it was being sprinkled with holy water. And you can't get more holy than the organ of a monk. It was warm too, so in the cold climate we loved that. So the snake loved being peed on. So that's how close we were to snakes. There was no fear there at all. And the same with all the other animals. There was a great sense for seeing those other animals fear. They were far more afraid of you than you were of them. So you could empathize with them, just to make sure that they were fearing, and they could go along with their business, unimpeded, and I go along with mine. We protect each other. So I was very protective with the snakes. There was one time that the villagers, there was a snake in our monastery, and the villagers had surrounded it and were trying to beat it to death. And I was so upset, I went and shouted at those villagers, "Leave that poor snake alone. Leave that snake alone." And unfortunately they didn't, they killed it in front of me. And I had just to let go. But to me, I really tried to protect that snake, because I felt a lot of empathy for it. So I'm not afraid of them, I really do care about them. I was just very fussy when I was growing up in England. I only liked certain things. But then when you have to eat such poor food, and it was the most disgusting food, probably in almost the whole world. Many other monks in those days had travelled to many different parts of the world. We'd often discuss the food in northeast Thailand, and many of us would agree that it was the most disgusting we'd ever eaten in the whole world. Even many people, Thai people from Bangkok or South Thailand and North Thailand, they would not go to the northeast because even they could not stand the food. But it was all the villagers had to give us to eat. And if it was a frog or if it was a snail, they always give us the best frogs or the best snails. And I always remembered that these were incredibly poor people, and they were sharing this small amount of food they had with me. So I did feel a lot of gratitude for what they were giving to me. Even though I was malnourished for many years. I didn't really get enough to eat. But I had enough inspiration and faith and good meditation to survive. It was very, very poor food. But for the kids in the cities, please remember there are some, because you've been without food before, there's many other people who've been without food. Just to go without food for a little while, you really appreciate just when you have got some good vegetables or good this or good that. Please appreciate it, because there may come the day when you don't have that. Just like I had not good food for many years, so I appreciate food now. When I first realized you'd have to abandon many, many days, hours, years in building a monastery, I didn't like the idea. Because I preferred just to sit down and meditate. That was my joy, that was my happiness, to be a simple monk. And to instead spend such a great amount of time building a monastery was very, very hard. But it needed to be done. And like anything else, you throw yourself into something, give it 100% effort. And I realized many years later it was because I was doing something very good for a worthy cause, and I was giving it 100% effort. It was a form of preparation for meditation which paid great dividends later on. These days I tell people, it's not what you do, whether you're sitting cross-legged or whether you're mixing concrete. It's how you do that which is the most important part. If you become selfless and just do this because it needs to be done, instead of having great striving and craving to make sure it's the most best concrete has ever been mixed, you make peace and contentment the most important thing, and you just do it with happiness and joy. Then you find the skills which you learn in mixing concrete are exactly the same skills you use when washing the breath. You're not demanding and asking too much, you're just being gentle and kind with your breath. And that way you soon get a beautiful monastery built, and you soon get very powerful meditation as well. And it was a great achievement. So 28 years ago when we bought the land for our monastery in Perth, and the amount of sweat and blood, my own personal blood, has gone on those buildings. Because when you're building, you're going to cut yourself, you're going to wound yourself. That is to be expected. I've done so much that when I look back upon it, I look back with so much joy. You've done something very beautiful and wonderful. You built a monastery, which is not just home for many, many, many monks. It's also an inspiration for people who come and visit. It's not a gaudy monastery with marble and chandeliers. It's a very simple monastery, but very well built. And many people have commented that when people put up these big, magnificent buildings, like a resort, it loses what a forest monastery should be, which is a practical monastery, but simple. You don't need to decorate it. It's not a theme park. It's not sort of like Disneyland, like Buddha Land or Meditation Land, a theme park. It's a monastery, so simplicity inspires people. So I have inspired people by the very sight of that monastery. An example for you. It was some years ago, a man came to see me. He worked in the local government. There's a person who decides whether the building will get allowed or not allowed, called a building inspector. And he came to see me saying he was about to retire, and he came to say thank you. I asked him why, and he said because every time he felt stressed at work, he would get in his car and drive 10 minutes to our monastery car park and just sit in his car, because a Buddhist monastery was a place of such peace and stillness that he didn't need to talk to anybody. He could just feel the stillness and peace, calm down, and go back to work a changed person. He just thanked me for the car park and the peace which we built up over all the years. Even 2 weeks ago, there was a missing person who we considered the police thought he may have committed suicide. And he parked his car opposite our monastery and disappeared. And for 3 or 4 days, the police and helicopters were searching for him, but never found him. But afterwards, the head of the police, who came to see me again, he was so stressed out, he just asked permission just to go in our hall. I was meditating for an hour. This is the head of the local police force in Australia. I don't know if he's a Buddhist or not, but just the resource of building a place where you can find some peace is just a wonderful gift for others. So I'm very, very happy. I've given so much of my life to building that. The most important thing is to do in life is smile. If you smile, then number one is sort of whatever you do hurts less. So if you have to go and see the doctor or the dentist, or you have to do some project or find your way through the busy traffic in the morning, if you frown, it's much more painful. If you smile, it hurts less. It energizes you and gives you positive thinking, and it makes you more attractive to others. Sometimes I go and see people and they're just so miserable. They're always frowning, or like they just had some big argument or been sentenced to death or something. They look so miserable. And it's great to see people smiling. It cheers everybody up. So sometimes that you create misery around you by not learning how to smile. One of the greatest things you can do in life is to learn how to smile. And most importantly, because I'm a monk, but when you meditate, for goodness sake, smile. You see so many people meditating when they're gritting their teeth, they're having a hard time. That is no way to meditate. The best posture to meditate, I don't care if you're sitting cross-legged, if you're standing up, sitting upside down, I don't care what you're doing as long as you're smiling. That's the most important part of your posture. That's a great question, because recently I did a bhikkhuni ordination which caused problems in Thailand. And somebody asked me, do you have any regrets? The regrets aren't part of my character. Because if you look back in the past, you cannot sort of redo the decision again. You can not think, oh, if I'd have done something else, who knows what might have happened. You can't do that. So a lot of times people live in the past with regrets or anger or guilt, and I think that's one of the most stupid ways to use their mind. So I have no regrets at all. Whatever I did, I had to do. There was a reason behind it. You made your choices and that was done. And you just get on with it. So you don't look back into the past. Nobody lived like that. There is an English word, I don't think this will come out in the translation, it's an English word called ineffable. Ineffable is an English word trying to describe like a god or nirvana or something which is so hard to describe, it's ineffable. So it's a religious word. And I changed that a little bit to say the past is ineffable. You can't say if I did this, if I did that. The past is ineffable. You can't say if. You can't have regrets. Because who knows what might have happened if you had turned left instead of right in the past. You don't know what might have happened. It could have been better, it could have been worse. And as you all know, good, bad, who knows? So I have no regrets at all. I'm not saying that everything I did was good, but who knows? Well, things which make me happy, everything. So you have things which you really enjoy, like a good cup of tea, or you see a funny video on Garuda on the way here. But that sort of makes me laugh. But sort of happiness, or what makes me happy, is even all of life, even like when you see people suffering. Because you see someone who just say lost their mother or lost their father recently, or you see someone who is bankrupt, or see someone who's just lost their girlfriend. And that makes me sort of happy because I realize this is just like life. It's a thing we all have to go through. And yeah, it might hurt at the moment, but later on it's going to bring me so much wisdom and compassion. So I'm just happy about the whole of life. And that's why it's actually quite easy that sometimes people come up and they're crying and they're sad, and I just can't help but laugh. And they say, what are you laughing at me for? I've just been told I've got cancer and I'm dying. What are you laughing for? So, well, why not? Because it's part of life and I'm happy for you. You're going to die soon and get out of here. So it is a super positive attitude which comes from understanding the nature of life. There is a meaning to life, and that meaning is just when it's hurting, you make the best of it and learn from it. That's like going to work. No one enjoys work, which is why you have to get paid to go there. So, the suffering in life, we don't like it, but we have to do it. That's our work, where we learn about things. So I'm happy that we're going to work. We're suffering, we're sick, we're getting disappointed. And then when you're having a very good time, that's like the weekends, or you're on holiday, you're on vacation, you're enjoying the fruits of your work. Life is wonderful. So happy whatever happens. And I'm serious that think of my mother's funeral. You know, some other people would cry, and they weren't so closely related to my mother. I was happy. I was smiling, laughing. So I don't see why other people have the right to feel sad when I'm her son, and I'm not sad. They should be happy too, like me. Sadness. What do you want to feel sad for? So I don't understand sadness these days. Because people do stupid things. They learn. I just look upon myself like looking at like a school teacher. A school teacher has little kids, and they do really stupid things sometimes. If they do stupid things, you don't feel bad about them. They're not bad people, they're just learning. Kids are learning about life. They're allowed to make mistakes. And I don't see why adults aren't allowed to make mistakes also. Because we're also learning about life. Doesn't matter how old you are, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of age, you are all allowed to make mistakes. Because that's called learning. So don't feel sad about mistakes. It's learning. So look upon mistakes in the same way that children look upon mistakes. Yeah, they learn from it and they just let it go almost immediately and they get on with their playing. So I don't see that sadness. And that's for others to judge. I'm happy, but I suppose I'm a bit of a failure because I aim to become a simple monk and have a nice simple life and just spend most of my time in the cave. So I failed at that miserably. So that's really joking. So, look, whatever happens in life, you don't look at success or failure. I mean, just you do what you do. Other people say, oh, wonderful thing you did. Other people say it's a stupid thing they did. No one else really knows what you did and why you did it. They don't judge success and failure, but you get lots of joy out of what you've done. And lots of happiness. So I suppose by other people's standards, you say you're a successful monk. I don't know what a successful monk is. So maybe some of the others are much smarter than me. Some of those other monks, they never wrote a book, so they can just take it easy all the time. I must be stupid, I have to work so hard. So many times people ask you that question, and there is no me inside to become enlightened. So it's very hard to say. I'm looking inside of me, if there's anyone there to become enlightened. There's nobody there to become enlightened, so how can you say I am enlightened? So as one monk said, many, many years ago, it's a very great Sri Lankan monk, he told me that when people asked him that question, are you enlightened? He would answer, I'm highly eliminated. Which is a nice answer. I would like to live here, wherever here happens to be, in the present moment, whenever the present moment is. So that's where you don't really worry about what country you're in, what city you're in, whether you're up in the air or down on the ground. Wherever life takes me, I'm always here. It's always now. So that's where I live. And look at that, you go to so many different countries in the world, the people are just people. Whether they're Indonesian, whether they're American, whether they're African or European. They're just really people, human beings. And we share far more than what separates us. Our cultural differences are tiny, which means you can love anybody. So every place is your home. No, it just happened by accident. Not my fault. I had it all planned. That I was number 2 monk in the monastery. When you're number 2 monk, it's like, you know, you go in a convoy, it's a truck in front. The lorry in front gets all the bugs on the windscreen. And that was the other monk. But then he fell in love and got married. And that left me as a senior monk. And so for the last, how many years, 20 years or so, I've been in the front car getting all the bugs on my windscreen. So, when you're out in front, you're the one who has to take all of the criticism, but also the praise as well. And the ones who are falling behind have a much easier life. So leadership is nothing you saw, but it is something which happens. The most difficult thing, again, is to trust the people you delegate to and allow them to do it much worse than you. In other words, you give a job to somebody else, and after you say, wow, they made a big mess of that, I better do it myself. And that is bad leadership, because it means you just become a control freak and you have to do everything yourself, and then you just get yourself burnt out. So you give jobs to other people, and they do it much worse than you can do it, but it's their job, you let them do it. Because I learned a long time ago that it's the people which are more important than the things. So I'd rather have a happy monk making a big mistake with the building than having a perfect building and a very unhappy monk because I keep telling him off. So whenever I delegate any duty to somebody, I always praise them and encourage them, even though they make a total mess of the project. I'd still say well done. It means the next time they do a much better job. And they'll be happier people. That's how people learn. So one of the greatest things in being an executive is allowing people to make mistakes, giving them a chance to learn, which is how we all had to. Teaching in the prisons. First of all, when I taught in the prisons, the very first time, one of the prisoners came up to me and said, look, I'm just trying to think of the right English word because he used a swear word. Please, I'm going to say this on camera, you can take it off, delete it, or say another word. He said, in prisons, don't give us any bullshit. You have to be honest, straightforward, and if you try to mess around and say things which aren't true, or be conceited or proud, you will not get any respect in this place. Strange as it may seem, but in the prisons there was a sense of honesty. Because everybody was in the same position, they were the lowest of the pile. And because they're all low, they had nothing to prove. So I had to be honest to them, they had to be honest to me. And that's what one of the great things I learned is the two places where people taught you honestly is with children and prisoners. Human beings will try and be polite. They'll try and hide things which they may feel ashamed of. Children will be open to you. And the same with prisoners. They'll be open and straightforward. And that's actually quite delightful. It's very, very rare to see that amongst ordinary people. They would like to say something, but they don't. Because it might upset me, or it might embarrass themselves. Children and prisoners, they would just say it. And that was so refreshing. So it's learned honesty in the strangest of places in prison. And I also learned how not to judge people. Because when you went inside the prison, these were people who were supposed to be bad men, bad women. And you looked upon them, and just like most people have said when I've sent them to prison and come out afterwards and say, you know, they're just like us. There's no difference between us and them. And that's so true. The people who go to jail are just ordinary people who make a mistake and get caught. And people out of jail maybe have made mistakes and not got caught. And that's basically one of the only differences there. Obviously some very bad people in prison, so rather people have done bad things, but they're not bad people. So I learned not to judge people. Because sometimes you stand in front of a rapist, someone who'd raped children. And for many people I've talked to, they say that's the hardest for them to forgive. these little innocent, playful, beautiful kids who get sexually abused by these middle-aged men. And they carry their scars for their life. What did they do to deserve that? And many of these people who were child rapists, they are probably the worst of the worst in cultures. People just want to kill them because of the amount of harm they've done to kids. But I can see goodness in them. It's a wonderful thing to take someone who is so criticized by society and give them compassion and see their goodness and see that goodness grow. And I see it in them. They begin to recognize it in themselves. And when they begin to recognize there is goodness inside of them, the healing begins. And you take these people who are really psychologically screwed up, child rapists, and turn them into human beings so they can go out in the world afterwards. Never ever do such a thing again and pay off their debt by contributing to society in wonderful and beautiful ways. That really inspires me. It's easy to just condemn people, to judge them, they're hopeless. One of the things I found in jails is no one person needs to be discarded. Everybody's got to see the goodness in them, which if cultivated will turn them into a good person. And I've seen that in my years in prison. It's so inspiring. I must admit, when I wrote that book, I wrote it so it would be a Buddhist book which is easy to understand and it would be helpful. Because most people write Buddhist books for themselves, not for their audience. And so I decided I wanted to write a book which would give people information about how to live their lives in a user-friendly way. So I had all these stories I've been using over the years to teach. So I decided to write them down. And the reason I started was because there was a woman who had gone through a very hard divorce in Australia and almost committed suicide many times. And there was the stories which I told her had pulled her through, saved her life. And she said, look, these stories are just too good just to keep for ourselves. So she said, can you write a book? I said, I'm too busy. So she started writing it. And she made such a bad job of it that I thought I'd better write it out myself. And so that's where the book came from. And when I wrote it, it was just so easy to write. It just flowed. And the first half of it, I think I was working an hour a day and finished it in 2 weeks. It's so easy to write, it just flowed. So you wrote it out once and you hardly edited it at all. And once I had written it, so I knew that this was very powerful stuff. It was stuff which had inspired many people when I taught this just in speech and lectures. So I knew it would inspire people when they read it, sort of in a book form. I don't know if you know how the first copy was printed. I had it on a CD, but we didn't know how to publish a book. We'd never done one before. So I didn't know who to write to, how to get it into a publisher. And so I had it in my bag when I was giving the talk at Melbourne University some years ago, and after the talk, a woman came along up to me and said, I'm a publisher, I like your talk, have you ever thought of writing a book? I think you should write a book, and we can publish it for you. And so I got it out and said, here's the book, publish it. And I got published it. It was just amazing that the karma is right, you don't have to look for a publisher, they come up to you. And so that's where it started. It's not like sending your copies to publishers and getting them rejected. It was as they came to me, just gave it straight away, and there it's published. long-range goals are zero because you really don't have any long-range goals. Right at the moment I'm talking in the middle of a talk show tour of Indonesia, and sometimes, even though today is a nice easy day, sometimes I look at that program, and if I look what I'm doing tomorrow, I think, I can't do this, this is unfair, this is too much work, I need more rest, more time for meditation. And if I look like that, what I'm doing, I'm worrying about the future. That is the mistake of life. So the program, I haven't got too much idea. I think we're going, is it to solo tomorrow? Yeah, okay, solo tomorrow. So one day in advance, that's enough. So I have no goals for the future. All my goals are for the present. Well, because I like to laugh at my jokes. So even if no one else laughs, I have a good time. That's one of the ways I learned how to be a public speaker. Or do anything in my life, because I realised that I'm going to enjoy my life. If I'm going to mix concrete, I'm going to enjoy mixing concrete. If I'm going to give a talk, I'm going to enjoy giving a talk, so I'm going to have fun. And you find when you have fun, fun is contagious. So if you're enjoying, when you get up in front of people and play around and tell funny stories, you enjoy it, and if you're enjoying it, you always find other people enjoy it as well. So telling stories and telling jokes is a great way of enjoying myself and taking on that joy of Dhamma for other people. I really sort of sometimes wonder about how a monk or a nun or any teacher can give a talk on Buddhism. And just academic, without any energy, without any joy. It shows they haven't understood the Dhamma. The Dhamma is joyful, happy, powerful, energized, exciting. So if you've understood it, then that's how you present it, as the Dhamma really should be. And stories are great because stories are the essence of life. Life is just a quilt, a patchwork quilt of interwoven stories. It's a unit of life, it's the story. So all we are, if you remember our life, it's a number of stories which overlap. That is what life is, stories. Well, I just was thinking about one of the questions you said earlier about what did I learn in prison. And I learned about the law of karma while I was in prison. From an old prisoner who at the end of one of my lessons asked to have a private interview. And after the interview, he began by saying, Ajahn Brahm, I didn't do that crime. I was put in jail for something I didn't do. I'm innocent, he said. And he assured me, he said, I know many prisoners will lie and say they didn't do the crime. But I'm being honest with you. I respect you. Ajahn Brahm, I did not do that robbery. Someone else did, not me. And how difficult it is when you're in prison with no income, limited access to phones, to be able to write injustices. Well, I think I could do that, and I knew a few lawyers. And I was thinking who I could call when I got back to the monastery to help this poor man who'd been put in jail for something he didn't do. And as I was thinking of which lawyer to ring, he interrupted me. And he said, Ajahn Brahm, I did not do that robbery. But there are so many other robberies I did where I wasn't caught. I guess this is fair. This is karma. He told me the law of karma because we always think it's unfair when we get criticized or blamed for something we didn't do. But how many times do we do something bad and never got caught? So when life seems unfair, in other words, you get hurt, you lose, and it's not your fault. Perhaps it is your fault. The way that karma works. You do many bad things in your life, selfish things, you don't get caught. You don't do anything and you do get caught. It's a balance. Justice balances itself out. So that's how I understand the law of karma. The nicest thing though is when someone does anything bad to me, I don't need to seek vengeance. Karma will sort them out, karma will get them. So if someone is bad, abusive, I just let karma do the punishing. I don't do anything at all. My job is to forgive, to be kind. Sometimes it does because I get tired, because I'm getting to be old monk now. So people think I look young, but I'm over 60 now. And if you have a 60-year-old car, you can't keep it in fourth gear and rev the engine and expect to sort of go so fast all the time. If you've got a really old car, you think the faster you go, the more things rattle and things start to fall off. So that's like being an old monk now. You've got to try and take it a little bit more easy, but that's only the physical part of it. The mental part of it, there's no such thing about busyness. I'll tell you what busyness is. Busyness is doing too many things at the same time. That's what busyness is. It has nothing to do with how much work you have to do. It's doing too many things at the same time. That's called busyness. So if you just do one thing at a time and do it well, you get a huge amount done without ever looking busy. So that's what I try and do. Try and do one thing at a time, enjoy it, which means you get a huge amount done without getting stressed. Rampant consumerism, that's really ridiculous. I can't understand why people eat so much. You consume so much food. I only eat a little food and I get fat. And the people I've been living with the last 4 or 5 days eat so much food. In my one meal a day I eat less than you do. But I keep on putting on weight. I think the reason I keep putting on weight is I don't worry enough, because doctors say if you worry a lot you lose weight. So I don't worry at all, which means whatever food I eat I always put on weight. But the rapid consumerism in this world, people think that's the only way to keep the economy going. They have to keep shopping and consuming a new products. But that's a false economy. We have to move towards what most modern governments say is sustainable living. Sustainable living means that we can still consume, but what we consume we put back again. So it's sustainable for the future. So it means that we actually consume less, but we consume more wisely. You asked me earlier about, say, mining. It's okay to dig up some of the stuff which is in the earth. We have to make sure we put it back again afterwards to replenish and restore. That's the same with consumerism. We're taking so much out of this world, we're putting hardly anything back. That is the problem. Because people think the only way to be happy is to have lots of things, a big house, a big car, fashionable clothes. And I come along, smiling and happy. I don't have fashionable clothes. This robe wasn't made by Gucci, it's not a Versace outfit. And I don't have expensive hairstyle. I don't have expensive things. I live a very, very simple life, and you're happy. I prove it by example. You don't need things to be happy. So I'm making a strong message by my lifestyle. There's another way to happiness instead of consumerism. So it's okay to say consumerism is bad or evil or ruining the world, but you need examples of what happens when you don't follow consumerism. And that's me, another monks and nuns. So if you want to be happy like me, don't consume so much. We should teach to our children the values of honesty and, what's the other one? And questioning. Because if the kids question, they'll always search for the truth in life. And if they're honest, they won't stop until they find the truth. So that's equipping our children to become wise. And to equip them to become compassionate, they need that by the example of their parents. So the parents should argue with each other which is show kindness and compassion towards each other, and then the children will pick that up. That is an education system which is behind the times. It's not progressive enough. We're teaching kids for life, not for the pass exams. And so we have to teach the children those skills which will equip them for life. And some of those skills are social skills. So we should reward children not just for personal achievement. I had this idea years ago, and I've spread this around to many government ministers, to have an education system where at the end of your school year, maybe 60% is your personal score, and the rest of the 40% is averaged over the whole class to which you belong. So if the whole class does well, then you do well. If the whole class does 40, you do 40. So the children have to work together. The smart kids have to help the kids who are weak. Because that's what we have to do in real life. When we go to the office, when we go to work, we have to learn how to cooperate as well as to compete. And too much of education is competitive. And these poor kids have to compete against their best friends. That's disgusting. So what we should really be doing is rewarding cooperation as well as competitiveness. That's something which our schools don't do. A few schools are beginning to get the message. And they're making adults, workers, members of their country for their future. People who can work together, who are not always backstabbing in the office, who can cooperate, who have the social skills of how to work harmoniously together with another person. I am a supermodel monk. Yes. I should be on the front cover of Vanity Fair and Vogue. Yeah, that's big trouble. You know, I've even got my own Facebook page, but I've never actually seen it. Somebody else did that for me. I refuse to see it. Anyway, it's quite sweet to have fans. If they're getting happiness out of it, and if they're getting inspiration which makes them better people, why not? Because if you try to control your temper, it gets worse. That is the most important word, control. Because that's where temper comes from. So the next time you have a temper, just let it out, let it be, let it go. Because then you are developing the tools, you don't get tempered in the first place. So when someone does something wrong, you let them be, you let it go. You don't try and control other people, nor do you try and control the world. That's all a temper is. It's just a result of you try to control and you fail. So you throw a tantrum, just like a little kid. So that's really ridiculous when people get angry. So but if you are angry, don't get angry about being angry, just let it out, let it go. And in future, learn that the best way is just to lower your expectations about life and other people. Lower the expectations. Lower them and lower them and lower them. You have no expectations at all. So you take life as it comes. You don't expect anything. You don't expect praise. You don't expect happiness. You don't expect health. You just take life as it comes, no expectation. That means whatever life gives you is a present. And the present, even if it's something that you don't use. Like someone yesterday gave me this watch. I gave it to Henry. It was a Chinese, what's it called, prediction watch. It tells fortunes, or it tells horoscopes. A horoscope watch. I've never seen one before. Totally useless, but of course you accept it. You accept life for what it gives you, even if it's totally useless, and you can't make use of it at all. So therefore you don't try and control. You accept life, and then you pass it on to somebody else. No expectations, no criticism. Then you won't get angry. Indeed, yes. So even everything gets wrong, and you get abused, you get cheated, people let you down. Wonderful, all is well. It just shows you expected too much, and that's why you get disappointed. Good example, some years ago when I was coming to Indonesia, I turned up at Perth Airport, I was flying Garuda, the flight was cancelled for 26 hours. So, it meant the people waiting to listen to me give a talk. The talk had to be cancelled. So all the organisers were very disappointed. They lost a lot of money because I didn't turn up. And other people were banging on the desk. You can't do this to us. We've got to get to, I think it was to Denpasar. We're going on holiday. We've got business to do. We've got to see our relations. They're getting so angry. And I just saw that and I thought, that's incredibly crazy. The angrier you get, it doesn't make the plane get there any earlier. It was being stupid. And anyway, I figured out the reason why it was delayed, because that was the time there was bird flu. And Garuda is a bird. Garuda got bird flu, so that's why it couldn't fly. So anyway, so that's why, that's how we control it. So we don't have expectations. So if I go to the airport, I don't expect the plane to take off. Which means I hope it takes off. And if it doesn't, it means I'm not disappointed. If it does, brilliant. So you don't have these very hard expectations, which is when they're not met, that's when you get angry. Meditation for busy people. This is a meditation for busy people exercise. How heavy is my glass of water? After 5, I told this last October in Imperial College in London. In Imperial College you've got some very smart engineers and scientists there. And one of them looked at this and said about 168 grams. He was probably right. But I said, that's not what I mean. So you smart ass, this is not what I mean. What I mean is, after 5 minutes, the water starts to feel heavy. After 10 minutes, I'm in pain. After 20 minutes, I'm in agony and a very stupid monk. So when this water starts to get too painful to bear, what should I do? You put it down for a few minutes. And after a few minutes, you pick it up again and it feels lighter. This is how busy people must meditate. A busy person with lots of stress, they don't let go and meditate for a few minutes. You find not only do they ache, but their brain becomes very inefficient. They just don't produce high quality work and they waste so much time because they're tired. Busy people are the ones who need to put the glass down often, to rest. So after resting for 10 minutes in meditation, the next 50 minutes they get a quarter's work done of high quality. So if you've got lots of things to do, you have to be efficient, which means you have to meditate. If you haven't got much to do, it doesn't matter if you meditate or not. If you're really busy, you really have to meditate. As one friend told me, he meditates every day, half an hour every day without fail, except when he's busy. And when he's busy, he meditates 1 hour a day. So if you understand the reason he meditates more when he's busy, because you have to be more efficient. How do we let go? By just in your brain, just like on the computer, you have a delete button. And that delete button, once you find it, you keep pressing it. Delete the past, delete the past. He said this to me, she did that to me, delete, 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 delete. Because after a while you think, why am I not letting these things go? An old story, someone calls you a dog. Now what happens when someone calls you a dog? The person thinks, they call me a dog, they should not call me a dog, it's not right to call me a dog. And if they're wise, they realize they've just been called a dog 3 more times. Every time they remember it, they're being called a dog again. So it doesn't make any sense keeping remembering the bad things which were said to you or the bad things which happened to you in the past. You're just allowing yourself to get hurt even more. So once you realize what you're doing, then it becomes much easier to let go. So I'm just hurting myself, I'm not helping myself, I'm just causing myself more suffering. And the same with the future, we learn how to let go of the future when we realize the only time we can do anything about our future is in the present, right now. Right now is the place our future is being made. So if we care about our health, our peace, our happiness, we should pay more attention to the present moment. The place where our happiness, success and health is being made. So that's why we can let go of the past and the future, which are the most important things to let go of. No worries, no regrets. So number one, you have to realize that you are worthy of forgiveness. To forgive somebody, you have to see their good qualities first of all. To focus on the 998 good bricks in the wall, not the 2 bad ones. Unfortunately, people keep looking at their faults and they refuse to see their good qualities. So much so, a few times I've been praised when I was a young monk. I thought, that was nothing, I'll just do my job as a monk. I refuse to accept praise. Nowadays, when a person says, "That was a wonderful talk, Ajahn Brahm," I say, "Yes, I deserve that. That was a good talk." I accept praise. Now that's an important step to forgiveness. To accept praise for yourself means you recognize there is goodness inside of you. But once you recognize there's something worth forgiving, forgiveness becomes possible. You've got such a bad opinion of yourself, you think that you're flawed or you're bad, then that's why you can't forgive. They haven't got everything. They don't know what life is all about. Sometimes that we say, oh, they've got everything. What we're saying, they've got material things. Have they got happiness? Have they got peace? Have they got the love of others and the love for themselves? So the most important things in life they haven't got at all. So they're just so poor, so desperately poor in the prisons of their own mansions. I've seen those mansions. They get security gates just like prisons. You've got guards at those gates and big iron bars. Mansions today are like prisons. They've got bars on the windows and the doors. Is that freedom? Or do rich people live in jails? So you look at it like that. See, the world might say you have everything. You've got fame, you've got money, you've got wonderful family, you've got your health, but is that really everything? If it was, they'd be able to retire and they wouldn't worry about anything anymore, but they worry like hell. So really, the most important things in life, they're missing out on. So they haven't got everything. And they know it, which is why they like to come to talks and read books like mine. They realize they're missing out. I'm the rich one. I'm the wealthy guy, with no money, but lots of happiness and peace. That's why they come and ask me questions. So guys, if you want everything in life, you come and become a monk. You get everything you ever wanted, and much more, richer than your wildest dreams. And I mean that. I mean, because people are missing out on peace and happiness and contentment. What, all the time. My favorite story is the story of the Buddha. The story of life is my second favorite story. In other words, it's a story which hasn't an ending. The story of life. Maybe just the story which is one of my so many favorite stories, but one which comes up right now is that story of the man being chased by the tiger in the jungle. And the last moment before the tiger's about to jump on him, he sees this well. He jumps in the hole in the well. And as he jumps in, he realizes he's made a big mistake. Because there's no water in the bottom of that well. It's a dry well. But instead, in the bottom of the well, there is a big black snake. And instinctively, he holds on to something on the side of the well to stop him falling onto the snake. It's a tree root, and it stops him falling. And when he sort of stops, and he looks up, the tiger is leaning over the well, trying to paw him, trying to get to him. But his hand is just too low. The tiger just can't reach him. And the snake down below has moved up his head. Oh, but no. Trying to strike him on his feet. His feet are just too high. So the snake just can't get it. Nor can the tiger. He's stuck in the middle there. He's safe for a time. And then he noticed two mice come out from a hole in the well. A black mouse and a white mouse. And they start chewing at his roots, making it thinner and thinner and thinner. And he realizes soon that root will be too thin to support his weight and he will fall. In other words, his safety is not going to last much longer. But because the tiger is trying to paw him, the back of the tiger is rubbing against the tree, making it shake. And on a branch of that tree overhanging the well, there is a bee's nest. And because it's shaking, honey starts to drip from the hive. And it drips right down the well. And the man puts out his tongue and tastes the honey. Such delicious honey. He enjoys every moment of it. And that is the end of my favorite story. The reason why it's a favorite story, because that's what life is like. Life does not have endings. All the stories of your life always has more things to happen coming soon. It's a never-ending story, life. Even at death, it keeps going on. That's why that story doesn't have an ending. Just like life, sometimes it's between a tiger and a snake. We're in big trouble. And night and day, the black and white mice are chewing at our hold on safety. But even though we don't know what's going to happen in the future, there's always honey dripping down. And the meaning of life is when you're between a tiger and a snake, don't forget to enjoy the honey. That's so delicious. That's why it's a favorite story, because it's the closest to real life. My last word, I don't know what my last word is. I haven't made them up yet. But I would say, like, have fun. Strive on with fun. Because happiness is an important part of the religious path. Too many religions forget their happiness, which means that they distance themselves with ordinary people, and they miss a beautiful way of conveying the love and the wisdom which is at the heart of religions. Religion's a loving, wise, compassionate, joyful path. So if we add fun to our religions, we'd actually be helping more people take to religious things, become wiser, compassionate, and healthier human beings. So that's why religion has forgotten its laughter. And it's monks like Ajahn Chah and now myself are trying to bring back the joy which was at the heart of religions in the early times. So my last word was, don't forget to laugh.